Maria Pergolino is the Chief Marketing Officer at Anaplan and one of the leading voices in B2B marketing today. Maria has helped create and evangelize tactics for CMOs and marketing teams to create sustainable growth engines. Now, during her time at Marketo, Maria and her team helped establish marketing automation as a proven software category. I'm eager to get her point of view on how B2B marketers can rise above the noise and ultimately create a dominant brand in a competitive marketplace. From the historic Fox Theater in Redwood City, California, this is B2B Creatives. All right, Maria, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, so excited.
Well, I was walking this was back in May, through San Francisco. I was at an event, and I saw what must have been a 2-story photo of you with the word fearless written underneath it. What was that? What was I looking at?
Yeah, talk about a humbling moment, a 45-foot billboard with your face, with every good and bad, part of it, up in one of the busiest traveled roads in San Francisco, at an event where all of your peers, all of the people you idolize are going to be. So really an amazing moment. The way that happened, I was nominated by another incredible marketer, Matt Amundsen, who leads a marketing group at another company here in Silicon Valley. And so just the idea that it was peer recognition, that it was an event, the Marketo conference, which I had a part of the creation of at my time at Marketo, it was almost so overwhelming. But the exciting part was that it was tied to that word fearless, right? And the idea was to highlight not just myself, but a number of marketers that have really made a difference and a path in marketing, which they defined as fearless. And what's really interesting is that term fearless was used in so many ways. People that had pioneered new things in marketing, people that were fighting, personal battles while also being great marketers, people that had grown in their marketing careers like myself and had just stayed so true to the industry. Just a lot of different unique approaches to marketing that were being celebrated, which I think there's never too much time spent celebrating diversity and things. So It was kind of a very exciting time.
That's awesome. And I have to ask where this, for you at least personally, where this fearlessness came from. I know you grew up in Philly, go Eagles.
Go Eagles.
Go Eagles. And B2B marketing, did it find you? Did you find it? What was the story behind?
Yeah, I'll tell this one quickly. And maybe not the right story to tell, but I'd really bad wanted a parking space when I was in high school. There was about 450 people in my graduating class, Shawnee High School in Medford, New Jersey. And the only way to guarantee one of less than 100 spaces across this population of 400 and some was if you were aligned to some business class that then potentially had you tied to then doing a job. And so I signed up for that business class to ensure I got this parking space. And while I was there, you had to participate in a marketing organization. I'm sure many have heard about Future Business Leaders of America, or DECA. And I chose this category, which to me seemed like the most generic, right? The one least committed as I tried to get my parking space, which was general marketing. And in that competition around marketing, found great passion, great awards, and it became a path. I did my undergrad and grad in marketing. I spent a little bit of time in finance, but other than that, has been a true dedicated marketer. And so not the way that I thought I would get here. You'd think I would get here, but I feel like through this strange way, I found a great passion.
Totally, and I think however you got here, I got to say that the word fearlessness, fearless totally, describes you. And I think just looking, obviously your incredible professional accolades at Marketo and Aptus and Anaplan, but beyond it too, just you've paid it forward to a lot of marketers like myself, who have had the opportunity to kind of watch a lot of the stuff that you've been doing, and whether it's listening to you kind of speaking at an event or kind of doing an interview like this. Why do you think fearlessness matters in marketing in particular? Why should we be fearless?
Yeah, I think for myself, when people are saying fearless, I think the thing that I think I've done unique is share a lot of the best practices back. There's nothing that I do that I am hesitant to share back with my peers. And sometimes those are mistakes that I've made or the team has made. And it is, I think, for me, the fearlessness has been to put it all out there, and any recognition and accolades that I've had are very little about me personally. I'm always part of a team that's doing great things. What is making a difference is I'm often bringing some of those best practices out, either in white papers or sharing it like this. And I think that the fearlessness has been making it so exposed.
Yeah.
I think for other marketers, there's so many ways to be fearless. And to some of your points, just in how you're doing things that nobody has done before, how, everybody has an opinion of marketing and of how you should do marketing, but how you then step in front of that and put together a coordinated, cohesive program that leads the entire organization. It's marketing is very exciting that way. I think all of us have to be fearless.
Totally. No, I totally agree. And as I look back on your career so far, demand gen and field marketing in particular were some of like the micro disciplines within marketing that you sort of started your journey on. What was your view of brand marketing? Brand marketing back in the day, and maybe how has it evolved today?
Yeah, I know that you have some ideas of the answer here because you know that I'm a passionate brand marketer as well. Yeah. I think, I started in, as you know, field marketing and in big corporations, and then ended up in startups. And what I found and in that and through, going and pursuing marketing as a discipline in things like college and in reading and everything that I do, that the discipline of marketing is definitely, the book has been written. Like, we have been doing marketing since, the beginning of time, right? We're marketing ourselves, marketing our companies, marketing our brands. And it is not, you can't just do it with demand gen only. Essentially, the reason we don't just have direct sales teams is because that's least efficient, right? The direct sales team used to be your face to the customer, and maybe marketing was doing some ads or some, before TV, it was in print and newspapers and then TV. What has changed and where demand gen became a true discipline is that, new technology came, the internet, right? We got started and we started doing search optimization and PPC. We then went to social media. We're now thinking about lead nurturing and lead scoring and all of the things that software has brought us as part of being digital. And that is that rise of demand gen. But what has personally made me successful, and I think if we look across the companies that have been successful from going through that maybe 100-person to billion-dollar valuation, is that there has to be this balance between brand and demand. Brand is ultimately a multiplier for an organization. We look at IPOs like Facebook, or even most recently like Zuora, where you compare some of the metrics in growth or when they're going to become profitable to peers, and they don't stack up the same way, but they still are having tremendous success, and that is brand as a multiplier. And so marketing, especially branding, creates an efficiency for the organization. It creates a voice for the organization, and then it ultimately increases the value of the company. And we see that, you look across the Fortune 500 brands like, Nike, that their brands are so prevalent, and it's somebody recently just said, I want to be a part. The best companies are brand-led companies, and I think it was the CEO Bill McDermott from SAP, and I think that is definitely the case.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, and I think that's part of our big sort of premise on the show is historically brand felt like it was somewhat marginalized. It was printing T-shirts and getting the logos kind of on kind of swag and assets and whatnot. I'm very much generalizing here, but I feel like today brand is more connected to growth, and I think that's kind of what you're kind of getting at in terms of whether it's our communities that we're building and doing events and trying to monetize both potential kind of fit customers within that community base, but ultimately serving them through this, through content, through resources like live events, connecting them with their own peers and networks. So to me, this sort of connection with brand and growth is what feels at least new from a dialogue point of view that hasn't been really discussed at length before.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. I think when we think about brands like Gainsight, the way that I became most familiar with the brand, when I first met Nick, he handed me a copy of his book, which did not feel like he was selling, right? He was sharing thought leadership. Right. an amazing expression of brand, right? I learned about the company. I learned about a customer first and customer focused approach. It was definitely a demand generator for me. And in something that seemed so just, it seemed like a gift, right? But what that gift was thought leadership and education. And so that's a perfect example of brand and customer stories and demand all coming together and what ultimately is what you want from marketing, which is an understanding and interpretation of your company that builds affinity.
Yeah, totally. And spoiler alert, I think I learned that from you, by the way, not directly maybe, but in reading some of your content around early stage content and how do you build kind of relationships with customers before they ever, or as they enter your funnel. But I do want to talk about your time at Marketo a little bit because you were instrumental in basically creating and evangelizing the function of demand gen, which brought CMOs to the table. Beyond that, you're at the demand gen company while doing it. I think this is what perhaps our customer success team might feel like a gainsight or something along those lines. And so how do you build and invest in creating thought leadership when you yourself are the target persona? Are there any kind of nuances there where you're sort of like putting yourself out there but teaching the world how to do your job to some extent?
Yeah, I think the first thing is when you go to school for marketing, one of the first things you learn is that you are not your audience and that you have to, no matter how close that audience feels, you have to disconnect that a little bit. And I think it is amazing to market to marketers. You have to also remember that you don't represent every marketer. And I watch companies and marketers go wrong with that sometimes. So it's really about all of the things that we do as marketers every day, building out the personas, understanding what their needs are. It doesn't matter. It was awesome to market to my peers, but you need to take a similar approach. You don't get to cut any corners that way. What I can tell you is marketing to marketers is intense. You would send out an email, and if it had a mistake, if that email went to 1,000 people, 600 of them are emailing you back, telling you about that mistake. Right. So, but then when you did something well, those same people that would criticize would celebrate you. And so you'd get emails saying, this is an amazing campaign, and I'm gonna copy this. And you mentioned grabbing some of the things that we had done at Marketo. I think, great marketing, there's nothing new, right, in anything anymore. It's not about, marketing's really not about coming up with the best idea. You could come up with ideas very different than mine. It is really about that. How do you take an idea and have great execution and bring an entire company with you? And I think when you can do that, brand and demand become easy. But it's also why thought leadership works really well, because you're educating your team, you're educating your partners, your investors, everybody at the same time. And when you tie that to advocacy, when those people are speaking for you, they're amplifying your message instead of telling their own story or a different story. And I think that's where that all comes together, right? This is all intertwined, and great marketing is, looks at, it's this amazing, intricate, right? You can't draw it, it's so complex, but it's bringing all those things together. Often we hear the example of a symphony, right? How do you get all of those pieces playing all at once? But it's even more complex than that, because it's all at once, all at the same time, all at all the right places, right? It's really amazing.
And ensuring that the music that symphony plays is consistent, right?
Well, and that everybody in your target audience likes it, right? We choose to go to the symphony in marketing. You're choosing who you want to listen to the symphony. So it's really an amazing discipline.
Well, something I wanted to talk about was taking the music to the people that we want to listen, right? And this is a horrible way to describe account-based marketing. Sort of this evolution of us moving away from linear kind of funnel, kind of lead to account to closed kind of progression, and saying, hey, like the world is changing. And so my question, you talk a lot about ABM, you're very kind of informed on this topic. How is ABM the thing that marketers have been waiting for? Is it the thing on the way to this bigger kind of alignment between sales and marketing? Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the role ABM plays in sort of the grand scheme of things for marketing.
Yeah, and you know this better than anybody. You're a great marketer. Like, ABM is something we've been doing for forever.
That's kind of
I already mentioned how we started doing things offline, and marketing was working with sales, and I started my career in field marketing, and all that was account-based marketing, right? You were bringing that marketing to those named accounts with the sales team. Essentially, all of this technology came in, and we were able to do things like PPC and create websites and allow for people to come to us. And we all shifted so hard over to that. And it was the right thing because it created great efficiency, but we all got really good at it. And so it created a lot of noise, right?
Yeah.
And so now we're back to having to differentiate ourselves from that. And that's where account-based marketing comes in. One thing that I've shared before is that if you look at all of these different things that have come in, SEO, PPC, content marketing, lead nurturing, lead scoring, marketing automation, all of these things that you could perceive as trends, right? When it came on, when we first started talking about lead scoring, it was the biggest thing, and then you don't hear about it as much. And so if you look at Google Trends, you can go to search Google Trends, and it allows you to look at how much people have continued to search those terms, leverage those terms. What you'll see is it's not that lead scoring was popular and then dropped off. Essentially, it became something, it had a rise, but then it stayed. It holds strong, and essentially what's happening is, as marketers, our job is becoming more complex. These are all tools that we have to be able to use, and we need to be masters of all of those things. It's not that ABM came in and now lead scoring is out, or we don't do PPC ads anymore. And so the discipline itself has become more complex. We still are responsible for that brand. We still have to use all of that technology to identify the right companies. And now ABM is giving us this ability to, in a more programmatic way than maybe we used to do in field marketing, go out and engage with each of those target accounts. And so technology is just letting us get more and more kind of perfect in our marketing. And the dream situation for all of us, I think all of us marketers would agree, is if we could just take our marketing dollars and apply them to the people that are ultimately going to buy, that would be the perfect in efficiency. ABM is letting us get a little closer to that dream, right? And I think you're going to see technology continue to come in. I think you wouldn't be surprised to hear AI or machine learning. Any of that technology is going to be that next wave, and we're going to have to learn that, but that doesn't mean we get to stop doing account-based marketing or any of those PPC or any of those other things. And so marketers' jobs is truly becoming more complex every day, and that's part of what makes it so exciting.
Totally. No, I completely agree. I think from our perspective, it's also brought sales and marketing together a lot closer, at least, than we've been in the past, in the sense that we're not just handing off opportunities and saying, good luck, we'll see at the finish line. We're sort of riding along with them, and we're creating these ideas, concepts that we can kind of activate to either do a webinar on site with a big prospect that potentially could close that quarter, and it's brought kind of the creative process for us. I mean, I tend to really enjoy looking for those opportunities to be creative and driving kind of growth, and it's been a lot of fun, frankly, for us, and it's kind of refreshed a little bit of our mindset as a marketing team.
I think on that, one thing that I talk about sometimes, it's a little bit controversial, is that if we right now go Google marketing, the definition of marketing at its most basic is essentially branding plus selling. And so, making people aware of the brand and then helping sell that. And when we look at B2C, there isn't that direct sales team. It's literally, here's my website and whatever I can drive to it, those are the goods, and there may not even be sales. And so when we think of it that way, I mean, there's essentially sales then is a part of marketing, not the other way around. Sometimes we get it confused. And it's not that I'm saying sales is less than marketing or anything like that, but we have the exact same goal. There should never be alignment issues. Marketing is trying to sell the exact same way that sales is. And so if you can really make sure the whole team understands that and is working on the same side of that sales rep still has the obligation of selling the individual deal, and I respect that in a huge way. But marketing is on that same team. What I'm surprised we don't talk about more, and maybe for a future episode, is more of that, how does marketing then align to finance? Because it is a major investment for the organization. Or how does marketing align with customer success? Because I think that the same way marketing is that efficiency before we then get to direct sales, I think marketing can be that efficiency on the customer advocacy side and the customer marketing side before we go to that one-on-one for customer success. And I'm excited that that I'm starting to see more content on this, and I think that that's going to be a bigger topic than marketing and sales alignment in the future, because you're right, it is, we're on the same side, we're doing the same things.
Totally, and the point on customer success is a good one. Marketers, we've sort of developed the ability to leverage technology to scale some of these touch points with sort of the amount of data that now exists. We can help kind of inform and work closer with our customer success team on how do we drive towards some of their outcomes, driving towards a renewal, driving towards getting a rating or a review on a site, like really kind of helping bring that sort of philosophy of campaigns into that organization. So, we found, and we're doing some writing on it too, so that these worlds are all starting to kind of converge in one way or another. What I want to talk about too is, for us, we invest quite a bit on conferences, and I know Anaplan does as well. And the idea is basically, if we can get as many of our customers or prospects or folks in a room together, what can come of that? And traditionally, there's been this notion of like a user conference. We do an industry conference, but however you sort of put it, it's this return to really like connecting on the human level with our customers and our prospects. And I know you guys have a philosophy on conferences and just community and all that sort of stuff. What's your take on this whole thing?
Yeah, it's funny. We, Anaplan, I joined about 5 months ago, or I'm in the first half of the year. We hired also a new chief revenue officer, and he really believes in the power of events. He says something that's so funny to me. He says to the sales team, just get our customers together with our prospects and just shut up, just be quiet, leave the room, let them do their thing. They'll do it together. And that's amazing, right? Yeah. That's when you have a great product, you can do that. And just like a side note for marketers out there, you're selling. Don't feel like you're a used car salesman. Right. Go sell for a brand that you feel proud of. Right. And I think that we have that here at Anaplan, and so both Steven, our CRO, and myself truly believe in events and bringing those customers and prospects together. I think there's a lot of, what's really hard is that when we think about our marketing spend, we often think of it in that, hey, here's our brand budget and here's our demand budget. And when you look at events, it often, your digital ads are gonna, potentially look so much more efficient than that event. But what you forget is that there's that brand value, so you're getting both. There is that customer advocacy piece that you get value on that's hard to put a dollar sign to. And then there's all these other audiences that we're responsible to sell to, investors, partners, our other employees, and events are the one way that you can touch them, right? We sell software. And you can't, you can see that software, but you never come face to face with it. You never have that conversation with the software. And so events are that kind of personification of who our brands are and give a face to that software that you may be using every day. And not just, again, for your customers, but for your prospects, your partners, your employees, your investors. Right. And so I find them to be invaluable. You have to be careful. They have diminishing returns. So you can't just say, I'm gonna get double the result if I double the budget. And so it definitely takes some good measurement and understanding to do them right. But I think events are really powerful.
And I think that there's our blog post to finance, right?
Yeah.
Like how do you sort of quantify the value of, employee kind of success, to your point, investor success, all of these kind of various pieces that aren't maybe directly kind of the why, but it's become the why. And it's become why we do these things. And for us, very, very similar. The other piece, I think, I like how you said it adds sort of the face, it adds the human component to the brand. There's also an appreciation that if you're in the audience, if you're a customer especially, we can stand on stage and say thank you, or we appreciate you, or that we care about you, where sometimes in enterprise software, we lose sight of meaning in the whole thing, right? And to be able to have folks that come to these events and say, hey, there's a company out there, there's a brand out there that cares about me and my success and my career path and all those sorts of things. That's led us to really think about this almost as a lifestyle brand. Like our job is, we want to do life with people in the profession of customer success through content, through a number of different resources, networking, events, and really help them kind of become great at their job. So I think that's an interesting component too, that events kind of give us that opportunity for. Well, one of the things that we talk about all of these different channels and all these different ways to engage. The MarTech landscape as a whole is getting super complicated.
Yeah.
I'm overwhelmed with everything. And so coming into the role at Anaplan, what are the things you're thinking about in terms of these are the big bets we're going to be making as we go and position the company to grow and position the company to win in the market?
I think, I talked about that complexity in marketing. And so what you have is you put together a marketing team and they're tasked, every single function, with so much to do. And so they're looking for automation to help relieve some of that pressure, to help measure their success. The problem is that a great MarTech stack, it's more than just let's automate everything we can. It's how it all comes together, how it all connects. And so it's not always, even if there is a great solution to help for automation, if it can't plug into everything else, maybe it's not the right piece. And so I won't be surprised when you see architects that specialize in MarTech, and I think there's a lot more to come that way. I think in the short term, when I think about my priorities, I really try to start with, putting the computer aside and with a pen and paper and saying, what's the plan? Where are our pain points? Where can we get the most efficiency? And then looking for automation in those places, and or potentially offshore strategies, potentially secondary locations, whatever is going to create that efficiency. So looking at what has a high expense. When we think about marketing in an organization, it gets a lot of speculation, and it's not because marketing's good or bad, it's because it is a major investment. Marketing is not a cost center. It is something similar to sales you're investing in to get growth. I mean, that is what the company is doing. And so when you think about that investment, it's often a big one. Often, once you take off the headcount in a company, once you take off the facilities, that in marketing investment is normally the next biggest expense for an organization. And so your job as a CMO or anybody within the marketing organization is to think about, do I need all of this investment? Could I get to the place we need to with less? That is a part of our responsibility. What do I have enough? And being able to articulate that. And part of that is really looking to see, are there strategies to make it lower cost? And so technology is that. And if you're adding technology and aren't going to get some return or some efficiency, if there's not a tangible benefit, then maybe you don't need that technology. And so I really try to think of it that way. We rely on technology in a big way, but what we try to do is when we leverage something, leverage it to its maximum potential before adding something else in. And so I've seen, we're trying to bring into Anaplan, and I've seen used in great places, is technology scorecards. How well are we using this? Are we doing what we can do with this technology? And if everything's not at like a B- or higher grade, not moving into that next piece of technology. Right. I think the other thing that's interesting is we think about technologies like AI, machine learning, big data. It's not just, I would strongly recommend not just trying to add in more and more technology, but really trying to look at the technology you have and see where they can leverage AI or machine learning, the data that you have. And so instead of continuing to layer on technology after technology, really challenging the companies that you work with. I know at Anaplan, our customers want to know, we have their most important data. They want to know how we can leverage this and give them better insights. And I think you should ask the same of the marketing technology you're using. You shouldn't just be adding more and more in, because it's then too much to manage, and trying to find a single source of truth becomes too hard. But really challenge the vendors that you're working with to make use of best-in-class technology that's available. And I think, I have no doubt brands like Gainsight are thinking about how to use the data that you have, and Anaplan, all the brands I've been with, Aptus, Marketo, all of them. I think in the marketing side, you're going to see more use of, what's the next recommendation? How do you better segment? Who are the people you should be talking to? Ultimately, none of us want to be going out and doing bad spam marketing to this. Right. We want to be precise, and I think technology is going to really help us get there in a better way.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think there's almost this expectation that our customers have that we're gonna be prescriptive with them, with our own technology, or at least that we're gonna build some of these things you're talking about, whether it's the machine learning kind of functionality, or if it's that we're gonna invest in becoming best in class to be able to kind of serve them and serve the market as a whole. So we totally kind of see that as well on our side. Well, one thing I want to talk about, we've talked a lot about demand gen and brand, as a function of growth. Creativity. Now, is this something is this mutually exclusive from what you hire for in terms of growth? Is it like a key kind of thing that you look for? How do you think about creativity as a function of demand gen?
Yeah, so I think if you are trying to do what I call checkbox marketing, if you're trying to create every type of content and push it through every possible channel, you'll have checked every box, but you probably will just get mediocre results. What I've seen other high growth companies, as well as the companies I've been a part of, do really well is choose a couple of channels and really make them the star of your demand. And so essentially that idea of doing more with less. Mm-hmm. But to do that, how do you really do, how do you take on, let's say, PPC or trade shows or your own conference and do it in a way better than anyone else? Yeah. And the path to that is through creativity, right? And so it is not just creativity in the look and feel, though. It is creativity in the measurement, creativity in how that you approach it in a way that nobody has before, right? Do you pull ideas from the consumer side? Mm-hmm. When we say creativity, we often think of creatives, and so that is that visual piece. And I think that's important. We as people are becoming more and more visual. We need it shorter. We have so many inputs coming to us and so much less attention span on any one thing. So, but creativity is not just about look and feel. It is about how do you take a unique approach to every single thing that you're doing. And so some of the most creative people on the Anaplan team are people in our operations, people in our field marketing, people that are in a global office trying to think about how do they make the company feel like a massive brand when they're in a 10-person office. And so when we can encourage creativity, not just in our look and feel, I think we can get some amazing results.
Totally. And I have to, for our final question, ask about, you mentioned borrowing from the consumer world.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of aspirational B2C brands or different kind of folks that you've interacted with, on the consumer side that have inspired you, and kind of implementing some of those into your B2B work?
Yeah, so I specifically work with companies that are category creators, right? Marketo, Aptus, Anaplan are all those. And what that means is not going into a market that's established and just trying to pull market share, but instead going where there is something totally unique that creates an exponential benefit for the consumer. So for Anaplan, the way that we do planning is just drastically different than whatever you could do with an Excel sheet or an ERP system, which creates an exponential benefit to the users. When you think about consumer brands like this, we're talking about Keurig, Uber, Airbnb, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that my job is the same as the CMO at Airbnb. I think it is very different, and it's a consumer brand. But if you think about some of the things that they have to do, it's educating people. You can't grow a category unless there's big awareness of that exponential benefit. So it's around educating people. It's about you have to build a brand. You have to create a unique dialogue. Yeah. You have to, and something that we use Gainsight to help us with is how do we highlight that customer and their success? It can't just be our voice. My job is to really activate not just the marketing team, but how do I get the 1,000+ Anaplan employees, the 10,000+ Anaplan partners, and then all of the Anaplan customers talking about the success they're happening. The reason you and I both know about Keurig, Airbnb, Uber, all of those category creators is because somebody in our lives is using it and has good experiences and bad experiences, and so I really pull on that as a B2B marketer. And what's great about marketing is the external of your organization, right? You can go look and see the other examples and what's working and what's not. Right. And it's a different interpretation, right? You're not going to see us maybe doing the same set of TV ads that I'm laughing at every day when I see an Airbnb commercial, right. But I think there's a lot of best practices there to be learned.
Totally. And we share Airbnb as a common passion area.
Yeah.
Right? They're done some really amazing things. Well, Maria, thank you so much for being on the show. It was a lot of fun catching up.
Yeah, this has been amazing. Thank you.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much.